Now, following the APC's march on the NPA's offices, we take a closer look at what this all means. Joining me now is Themba Godi, who's the president of the APC. Mr. Godi, good evening, and thank you so much for your time tonight. Certainly, you are expressing some discontent with the NPA. What's that about?
Thank you very much. Our beef with the NPA and the Hawks is around the way in which the matter of Steinhoff has been handled. We know that the Steinhoff corruption case is the mother of all corruptions in this country, but it is not handled with the level of focus and energy that it deserves, and we feel it's almost as if it is quietly dying off for reasons that we believe are wholly inappropriate.
And when you then look at how this, these two cases have been treated here, what would you say is at play according to the APC?
Well, look, we have made a bold statement that, part of the problem we're having is that in South Africa, everybody is against corruption, but as long as it's corruption by those who are not in your corner. So there's no principled approach, and the sense is that if corruption happens in the private sector and it is done by white people, well, it's something that is tolerable. But if it's in the public sector done by Africans, then we hear about it all the time, and we think that the pussyfussing around the Steinhoff matter is actually a reflection of that syndrome. You'll recall that when this broke out late in 2017, Parliament tried to bring the parties to Parliament to account. But I can tell you that the Hawks were really literally dragging their feet on the matter. They seem to just have no interest whatsoever. And it just cannot be acceptable when you have a corruption case of such historic proportions and it's treated as if it is nothing.
And when you then look at, the NPA, in March, they said that they are making some kind of progress when it comes to the issue of Steinhoff. And then you look at what Minister Ronald Lamola also said in Parliament then, and I quote, "Things are not moving at a snail pace, but it is happening." And also looking at what the NPA has also said, that because this is a commercial investigation and it's a commercial case, so it's complicated, it's likely to take time because these things do take time. Do you think then that the NPA has the capacity to be able to implement such an investigation, and looking at the fact that it now also says that PricewaterhouseCoopers is also involved as investigators then here?
Well, I don't know about capacity, but certainly the enthusiasm is just not there. And the issue of PwC, it's quite troubling. Because remember, when the corruption case broke out, Steinhoff enlisted PwC to investigate on their behalf. And actually, they'd given Parliament time frames within which they would know what happened, who did what. And now Steinhoff comes to the state and say, we are going to pay PwC to investigate us for you and give you the outcome. I don't think that there's any way in which you can justify a suspect paying the state to investigate it, and yet it directs and determines who those investigators are. It is just not acceptable. They tried to explain it to us in passing today, but we just don't buy it. It just cannot be.
And when you then, handed over this memorandum today, what were some of the commitments that they made, and also what were some of the reasons then, if they furnished you with any reasons, as to why these delays are in fact in place? Because certainly everyone is waiting with bated breath to see who will be arrested here.
Yeah, I must say that we were well received at the NPA. And we interacted very, very cordially with them, which we appreciate. Well, we wrote to them, gave them a memorandum, and they committed that they are going to respond to us in writing We gave them 14 days. They were very thankful that it gave them enough time to consult with the Hawks, because we had addressed the memorandum to the NPA and the Hawks. Because remember, these kind of cases are usually, the investigations are prosecution-led, which means it is the NPA that directs the Hawks where to investigate, what to investigate. So they said they will need to consult with the Hawks and then compile a report that they will send to us within the time frame that we've given them. So the reasons and the explanations for all the issues that we've raised will be in writing to us. We didn't expect and we didn't want anything verbal, because then anybody can turn around and deny it later.
And what then, does this do to the credibility of the NPA, to its image? Because when you even look at, the papers that were filed by President Cyril Ramaphosa today, he's talking about an NPA in 2017, even during the Nazareth conference, that appeared to be weakened and was also fighting factional battles. And fast forward to 2021, you then see a situation like what we are seeing now, with some matters really receiving urgent attention, but others appearing to be in the back burner. What does this do then to the credibility of this organization?
Incidentally, my sister, when we finished our march, a gentleman approached us with a complaint that he has two cases that the NPA are dragging for well over 6 years, because it involves some companies. The other one, it involves white people. They just don't act. So the issue of credibility for the NPA, it's really at stake here, to say, we see you running around chasing after people with a lot of halubalu, but here it's a case, the worst case in the history of our country. And may I also add that as far as we're concerned as the APC, it does not end here. We actually said to the NPA, our coming here today is actually the opening shot on this matter. Because remember, there is also the Reserve Bank, the role played by the Reserve Bank. There is also staying of the company itself. We will still decide as the APC what it is that needs to be done or said to these two entities. And also, depending on the response that we're going to get from the NPA, we'll decide what to do to ensure that this matter does not fall off the radar, but it is given the attention that it deserves, seeing that it is a corruption case of historic proportions.
And are you able then to tell us what may be in the radar if they don't respond in a satisfactory manner?
Well, look, like I said, today was the opening shot. We're looking at this as a war of attrition and not as a war of quick decisions. So we're not expecting that after 14 days we'll sit down and be satisfied with everything that they've said. No. We believe that there is still a lot of fight ahead for us as the APC, and we're prepared and are gearing ourselves to that fight. May I say that what we're going to do and how we're going to respond, it's something that time will tell.
And while this matter also unfolds, Mr. Godi, there's also justice that some of those who were cheated and robbed of their monies are still waiting for.
Very true. That's why in our memorandum, we have also indicated that, you see, the issue of staying off is not just about business ethics and corporate governance failures. It is about human beings. It's about real people who have suffered grievous financial losses. There were people around Zwane, I think, who once called me complaining that they have lost big time from this collapse of Steinhoff, and that they are being sent from pillar to post. They are not sure whether they're ever going to get any cent out of the monies that they'd invested. And those are people that will be consulting and engaging going forward. So yes, it is not just about corporate failures, it's about real human beings. Remember, there are billions of government workers' pension fund that has been invested, or that was invested into Steinhoff, including billions that were corruptly given to one Naidu to buy shares at PEP stores, which has not yet been paid back to the PIC, which might also be lost. So it is not just about failure of processes. It is also about the impact that it has had on individuals and entities.
And certainly worrying developments there around this particular issue. But if you may allow me as a final question tonight, let's look then at another issue, because you're somebody who was really quite instrumental in when it comes to accountability. You know, as you were leading SCOPA then during your tenure in Parliament. Let's talk then about the developments around the Health Minister and digital vibes. What do you make of those, and do you think that he should be stepping aside to allow these investigations to unfold?
I was shocked. I was shocked to read what has come out. But I think, look, my sense has always been that it will be very, very difficult for you to find within the ANC anyone amongst their leadership who is clean. It is just a matter of time before everybody's skeletons come tumbling down. I think Member Tabile Dlamini would say, "I told you so."
All right, certainly those smallanyana skeletons, as you alluded to then at, at the tail end of our conversation there. Thank you so much for your time tonight. That was APC leader Themba Godi. We'll certainly track the story and see what progress then you're making in about 14 days to see where to from here, because a lot of people are interested in this particular matter of standoff. Certainly these developments there. Some are not impressed at how the slow pace of justice appears to be unfolding here in this particular issue of standoff. And you would have seen some of, employees telling media houses then that their dreams have now been shattered. But let's continue with the program in just a moment.